The morning of September 11th, 2025, began like any other in Beijing's Chaoyang district, until the silence was shattered by sirens. At the base of a luxury tower in the Sunshine Upper East complex, the lifeless body of 37-year-old actor Yu Menglong lay surrounded by shattered glass and blood. Within hours, the internet exploded. Millions of fans flooded Weibo, China's version of Twitter, with grief, disbelief, and heartbreak. But then, everything disappeared. Posts were deleted, hashtags erased, tribute videos taken down. It was as if the country had decided to erase a man in real time. Authorities called it an accident, a night of drinking gone wrong. They said Yu fell from his apartment window, that there was no foul play, and by nightfall, the case was already officially closed. 12 hours. That's all it took to write off the death of one of China's most beloved stars. Yet the speed of that conclusion only raised more questions. Why were Yu's final messages to his mother filled with fear and warnings? Why did evidence vanish almost instantly after the news broke? And why did the government seem desperate to silence anyone still asking? Tonight, on Criminal Tracks, we reopen the file that China tried to bury. Because sometimes, when the truth is too dangerous to say out loud, it doesn't disappear. It just waits for someone brave enough to tell it. When the sun rose over Beijing's skyline, the world already knew something terrible had happened inside the Sunshine Upper East residential complex. At 6 a.m., a resident walking their dog made a horrifying discovery. The body of Yu Menglong lying motionless on the pavement below. Within minutes, emergency services arrived, cordoning off the area with yellow tape while reporters gathered outside the iron gates. Cameras flashed, but by the time the story hit social media, it had already started to vanish. Official statements came quickly, too quickly. By midday, authorities announced their findings. Alcohol consumption. Accidental fall, no criminal activity. They insisted there was no sign of a struggle, no suspicious circumstances, and that Yu had been drinking heavily before the fall. By that same evening, the case was closed. In less than 12 hours, a man's life, death, and investigation had been summarized in 3 short sentences. To outsiders, that might seem like efficiency. But in China, even routine incidents involving celebrities are subject to days or weeks of verification, especially when they happen in high-rise complexes equipped with 24-hour CCTV surveillance. Fans noticed what wasn't being said. No mention of autopsy results, no explanation for the damaged window screen, and no confirmation of what floor he actually fell from. Some reports said the 27th floor, others the 5th, and neither version ever received clarification. As news spread, millions of Weibo users posted tributes, photos, song clips, scenes from his dramas. Hashtags like #RememberYuMenglong surged to the top of trending lists. And then, just as suddenly, they vanished. Entire posts disappeared mid-scroll. Accounts that tried to re-upload were suspended. Screenshots showing the censorship began circulating overseas, and that's when suspicion truly took hold. Why erase grief? When people tried to post condolences, their words were filtered into empty timelines. Tribute videos on Bilibili were deleted within minutes. The hashtag that once united fans in mourning was quietly replaced by unrelated topics. Cooking shows, travel ads, random celebrities. It wasn't just silence, it was engineered forgetting. Lawyers, journalists, and fans began to question the official story. One Taiwanese legal analyst noted publicly that it's procedurally impossible to conclude a death investigation in such a short time, particularly one involving a public figure. Forensic teams need toxicology reports, witness interviews, and surveillance reviews. None of those could be completed in half a day. Yet officials insisted the matter was resolved. By the next morning, Beijing's news outlets had stopped covering it altogether. The story was over, at least officially. But online, something else was happening. Threads appeared detailing inconsistencies, screenshots of deleted messages, and whispers that Yu had expressed fear in the days leading up to his death. It wasn't the speed of the investigation that frightened people. It was the determination to end it before the questions even began. As one netizen wrote before their post was taken down, "If he really just fell, why are they afraid of us talking about it?" And that question, simple, haunting, and impossible to erase, was the spark that turned one man's death into a nationwide mystery. In the chaos that followed Yu Menglong's sudden death, one thing stood out above everything else: his final messages. They weren't rumors, screenshots, or speculation. They were real texts, written in his own words, and sent to the person he trusted most, his mother. Days before the fall, Yu wrote, "The money they transfer, I want to vomit. It's dirty money. They may kill me." The tone wasn't poetic or exaggerated. It was terrified. He didn't say who they were, but he repeated that phrase several times, dirty money, as if it was the key to everything. Then, on the night before his death, came the last message. "I have to say goodbye now. They might kill me anytime." Those weren't the words of a man planning to get drunk and accidentally fall. Those were the words of someone who knew danger was closing in. To understand why those texts hit so hard, you need to understand who Yu Menglong really was. He wasn't the type to chase scandals or spotlight. Born in Urumqi, Xinjiang on June 15, 1988, he grew up far from the entertainment world. His mother was a music teacher, his father a fitness coach. His childhood friends described him as disciplined, polite, and quiet, the kind of person who believed effort mattered more than noise. Yu started out as a singer before becoming an actor. In 2007, he joined a competition called My Show, My Style, then appeared again in Happy Boys in 2013, placing in the top 10. That's where he met Hua Chenyu, the eventual winner, a friendship that would later take on tragic meaning. His acting career took off slowly but steadily, from small roles to his breakout in Go Princess Go, 2015, and later Eternal Love, 2017, alongside Yang Mi. By 2019, he had become one of the few stars who could balance idol fame with genuine acting talent. Colleagues often described him as hardworking and private, someone who avoided late-night parties and industry gossip. He lived modestly with 2 dogs, Fi and Hu, calling them his family. That's why, when rumors began that he had attended a late-night gathering the night before his death, many fans didn't believe it. Yu was known for having a low alcohol tolerance and being extremely professional before shoots. He was scheduled to start filming the next morning for a new project. So why would he suddenly break his own rules? The texts changed everything. They revealed a version of Yu that no one had seen. Anxious, suspicious, scared. His words about dirty money hinted at something far beyond personal issues. In China's entertainment industry, the term often refers to illicit funds, usually tied to money laundering through production companies or fake investments. It's a system where famous names are used as fronts to move massive amounts of cash under the guise of film financing. If Yu had stumbled onto something like that, or if his name was being used without his consent, it could explain both his panic and his silence. And yet, after his death, none of those messages were addressed by the police. The official statement never mentioned them, and neither did his management agency. The conversation between a son and his mother, which should have been vital evidence, was simply ignored. By the time the screenshots surfaced online, fans had already begun piecing together their own timeline. The night before the fall, Yu was seen entering the Sunshine Upper East complex for what appeared to be a small get-together. He didn't post anything afterward. The next thing anyone knew, he was gone. Whether those final texts were a warning, a confession, or a desperate cry for help. One thing is clear, Yu Menglong was afraid of something. And whatever he feared didn't disappear with him. It only grew louder when the truth was buried. It started as an ordinary private dinner. At least, that's what everyone called it later. On the night of September 10th, 2025, Yu Menglong attended a small gathering inside the Sunshine Upper East residential complex, the same building where he would be found dead just hours later. Around 16 people were reportedly present: actors, producers, influencers, assistants. To the outside world, it looked like a friendly night among colleagues. But according to several unverified accounts that surfaced online, Yu didn't seem himself that night. Witnesses described him as tense, withdrawn, and unusually quiet. One guest allegedly told a friend later that Yu kept checking his phone like he was waiting for something. Another claimed he barely touched his drink, despite people around him encouraging him to loosen up. For a man known for his professionalism and low tolerance for alcohol, even being at that kind of event seemed out of character. At some point during the evening, Yu reportedly left the main living room and went into a bedroom alone. No one knows for sure how long he stayed there, but what happened afterward would change everything. Around 2 a.m., neighbors heard a scream, followed by the heavy, unmistakable sound of something hitting the ground outside. By 6 a.m., his body was discovered. The police quickly labeled it a drunken fall, but online investigators began mapping out inconsistencies. If he fell from the 27th floor, as some reports suggested, how did witnesses also claim the damaged window was on the 5th floor? Why did the CCTV footage from that night conveniently malfunction? And why did none of the 16 guests come forward to clarify what they saw? Rumors spread that video evidence once existed. Short clips, supposedly showing Yu being escorted between locations earlier that night, even appearing injured in some frames. These clips vanished within hours, their uploaders suspended. Some said the footage showed him being forced to drink. Others that it was a normal gathering. The truth was impossible to verify because every piece of visual evidence disappeared faster than it appeared. Then came the official silence. When reporters asked for updates, they were told the case was under control. When fans demanded an autopsy report, none was provided. The only thing the public received was a statement reiterating that Yu had been drinking and that no foul play was involved. But for many, the math simply didn't add up. Why would an actor at the height of his career, with multiple upcoming projects, risk everything in a night of excess? Why did no one at the party report the fall immediately? And how did an investigation into such a high-profile death close in less than half a day? As the days passed, 3 women were arrested for spreading false information, accused of fabricating stories about torture, deleted footage, and hidden evidence. Yet, instead of calming the public, the arrests made suspicion worse. If the case was so clear-cut, why did discussing it feel like breaking a law? Online, people began using code words to talk about the event, replacing names with emojis or acronyms to avoid detection. Threads disappeared within minutes, and those who tried to repost were shadow banned. It was no longer just a mystery. It had become a taboo. One chilling line from a deleted post summed it up perfectly. 16 people were there, but not one voice has spoken. In a city full of cameras, there's not one recording left. Whatever happened inside that apartment that night, whether it was an accident, a confrontation, or something darker, the silence that followed spoke louder than any confession ever could. When official answers vanish, rumors rush in to fill the void. In the days that followed Yu Menglong's death, the internet became a battlefield of theories, some logical, others terrifying. With no CCTV, no autopsy results, and no transparent investigation, people began to construct their own version of the truth. And what they built was darker than anyone expected. The first wave of speculation centered on something called the USB theory. According to unverified posts on Chinese forums, Yu had discovered that his name was being used to register dozens of shell companies, some allegedly tied to firearms and pyrotechnics imports. Categories that made no sense for an actor. The theory claimed he collected evidence, stored it on a USB drive, and swallowed it to protect it before the dinner party. Then came a second, even more disturbing layer, that voices in a leaked audio recording were heard shouting, "Cut open his stomach," and spit it out. Those clips spread for only a few hours before being deleted from every Chinese platform. None of these recordings have ever been authenticated, but their brief existence left an unforgettable mark. To many, it felt like the truth was there for a moment, before being buried under censorship. Another widely circulated rumor focused on connections to power. Two of the alleged guests at the party were said to belong to politically connected families, their names erased from the internet within minutes each time they appeared. Users claimed that one of them held influence over Yu's management company, effectively controlling his career and contracts. Others went further, suggesting that Yu's refusal to renew certain agreements angered people he couldn't afford to anger. Again, there's no official proof of this, but the speed of deletion whenever those names surfaced made many wonder whether censorship was protecting reputations or hiding guilt. The third major theory revolved around money laundering. In China's entertainment industry, it's no secret that some production companies serve as fronts for moving large sums of money under the cover of movie investments. When investigators or insiders discover irregularities, they often face career-ending consequences. According to the theory, Yu realized his image and credentials were being used in a web of fake companies funneling dirty money through film budgets. He allegedly confronted those involved, and that confrontation happened the night of the gathering. It was the moment he went from useful to expendable. Unverified as these stories are, they shared one thing in common: fear. Not just Yu's fear, but the collective fear of everyone who tried to talk about him afterward. Residents of the Sunshine Upper East complex reportedly received hush payments to remain silent, some allegedly as high as 1 million yuan per household. Others claimed they were threatened with red paint splashed on doors or mysterious phone calls at night. Even if those stories were exaggerations, something about the neighborhood undeniably changed. Within 2 weeks, more than 100 apartments went up for sale. People wanted out. Meanwhile, fans searching for truth were silenced one by one. Accounts posting Yu's final messages were shadow banned. Hashtags discussing the case were replaced with tourism promotions or sports results. Anyone who mentioned dirty money found their posts flagged within seconds. The message was clear: this story was not to be told. Internationally, the censorship had the opposite effect. Foreign journalists, unable to access Chinese data, began tracking deleted posts and reconstructing timelines from fragments. They noted how the hashtag bans corresponded precisely with the times when certain allegations went viral. In one striking pattern, every major surge of online discussion about the USB, about the party guests, about the mother's disappearance, was followed by a new clean net directive from Chinese authorities. To outsiders, it looked like someone was scrubbing the narrative in real time. Inside China, people adapted. They used coded language, calling Yu the Fallen Prince, or referring to the case as the 12-hour script. Fans shared videos hidden inside music clips, embedding discussions in subtitles to evade detection. It became an underground digital movement built on whispers and encryption. And that's when the story stopped being about one actor's death. It became about something much larger: the battle between truth and control, between memory and erasure. Each rumor carried its own risk. People were arrested for repeating them, fined for discussing them, and doxxed for sharing screenshots. But the more the government deleted, the more people refused to forget. The cover-up, whether real or imagined, became the very proof of what everyone feared. As one foreign commentator put it, in a system that punishes curiosity, silence becomes its own kind of confession. By the end of September, one thing was certain: Yu Menglong's story was no longer just about how he died. It was about how an entire nation was forbidden from asking why. In the weeks following Yu Menglong's death, silence became more powerful than any statement. It began with his mother, the woman who had received those desperate messages about dirty money and danger. On September 16th, just 5 days after his death, a public statement surfaced online, allegedly written by her. It claimed that Yu had simply fallen after drinking alcohol and urged the public to stop speculating. But what came next was even stranger. She disappeared from the public eye completely. No interviews, no appearances, not even at the memorials that fans organized. For someone who had just lost her only son, the silence was almost unnatural. Supporters flooded the internet with a new hashtag. Where is Yu Menglong's mother? They wanted to know if she was safe or if someone had pressured her into silence. Within hours, that hashtag was deleted. Accounts that mentioned it were suspended. Some users claimed they received warning messages from platforms reminding them that spreading misinformation can lead to prosecution. It was a chilling reminder of how far the censorship had reached. Grief itself had become forbidden speech. Friends and colleagues who tried to speak out faced their own forms of intimidation. Hua Chenyu, Yu's longtime friend from Happy Boys, performed at a music festival days later with visuals that fans immediately recognized as a tribute. A falling silhouette, shattered glass, a clock frozen at 2 a.m. The symbolism was unmistakable, but he never said Yu's name aloud. Soon after, his social media comment section was locked, and old posts mentioning Yu vanished. Another artist, who publicly urged the 16 dinner guests to tell the truth, later reported receiving death threats and having personal data leaked online. Even Yu's mentor, a Taiwanese singer who called for a transparent investigation, was allegedly sent a message counting down the days to his accident. He later released a short post, "I will not end myself." It was the kind of statement you make when you know someone wants people to think you did. By late September, the entertainment industry had gone completely quiet on Yu Menglong's name. TV reruns featuring his shows were replaced overnight. Search results for his interviews redirected to unrelated pages, and even fan memorial accounts were shut down. It was as if his existence was being systematically erased, and yet the silence only made his story louder. In every vanished post, in every banned hashtag, in every locked comment section, people saw the same message: that someone, somewhere, was terrified of what Yu Menglong might still reveal, even from the grave. By the end of it all, the story of Yu Menglong wasn't just about a man who fell. It became a mirror reflecting something much larger: the fragile space between truth and control in modern China. A death ruled accidental in 12 hours now lives on as one of the most haunting mysteries in the country's entertainment history. And no matter how many posts vanish, how many accounts are silenced, or how many people are warned to stop asking, the same questions refuse to die. Why was the investigation closed so quickly? Where is the CCTV footage? What did Yu mean by dirty money? Why did his mother disappear after one statement? Who benefits from a story that ends before it begins? Every question the authorities avoid only deepens public doubt. Every deletion becomes its own piece of evidence. The harder they try to erase him, the more people remember. And that, perhaps, is the most dangerous truth of all. Because this case was never just about Yu. It's about the millions of people who saw how easily a life, and a legacy, could be edited out of existence. It's about the moment when grief became illegal, when mourning turned into rebellion, and when silence said what words no longer could. In the end, maybe Yu Menglong's final act wasn't his death, but the echo it left behind. An echo loud enough to cut through censorship itself. This is Criminal Tracks. If you believe truth should never be buried, subscribe and stay with us. Because stories like this don't die. They're only waiting for someone brave enough to tell them.